Don't touch me up.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So in North Carolina, a woman named Brittany Lynn, who was unarmed, was shot by Gastonia Police in her own house in front of her children. So let's see how a woman in her own house can get shot by the police.
For the first time tonight, we're hearing from the Gastonia Police chief after one of his officers shot an innocent woman 3 times.
Reporter Ken Lemon questioned him about calls for that officer to be fired.
The chief says he's not talked to Officer Stephen Whisnant, who is still on administrative leave. The chief spoke with me between appointments by phone today.
We hate that this has happened.
Chief Helton said he is open to the idea of talking to Brittany Lynn, the unarmed woman shot in her home by a first-year officer with her children yards away. The district attorney called it an accidental shooting, but the chief wouldn't comment on the DA's assessment.
I think it'd be preliminary for me to give an opinion or come to any conclusions on what took place yet because I've not seen everything and heard all the statements.
Police went to the house on Gray Street to arrest Brittany's brother, Jarvis Lynn, who was wanted on unrelated charges. Brittany said she opened the door for Officer Whisnant with her hands in the air, and he opened fire. She said she was shot 3 times. The chief says he's relying on an SBI investigation to sort out the details.
I want them to be thorough. I want them to look at everything. I want to make sure that we have done everything that we should.
When they chased him around there, a few seconds later, I heard a gunfire, pow. And I sat on the porch, duck and tuck a little bit. And I guess about 5 minutes later, they brought a lady around here. They brought her over here and put her on the curb.
According to arrest warrants, Jarvis Lynn had a gun and refused to lower it, but family members say he never had a gun in the house and didn't resist officers.
So Gastonia, you got some cleaning up to do.
The department has taken a lot of heat from people who want Officer Whisnant fired and say police need to rebuild public trust.
Our efforts at the police department is to serve the entire community. It's something that we're going to have to work through, and of course we'll be accountable in the end for our actions.
There's body camera video of the shooting that's being reviewed by the SBI. They will submit a complete report to the DA, and he will decide if charges will be filed against Officer Whisnant. The DA says that decision could take hours or months, depending on questions he may have after he receives the report.
So the Gastonia Police say they got a noise complaint about loud music. And when Officer Stephen Whisnant showed up, they saw our brother Jarvis Lynn outside, and he had warrants, so he ran in the house. Now, I don't know how the police knew who this brother was and if he had warrants when they were only there because they got a noise complaint. But either way, the police chased him to the house, and this sister Brittany Lynn went out of her way to tell the cops that she was unarmed and she had kids in the house. And when she opened the door and made sure she put her hands in the air, after she was very clear about what she was doing, this cop Stephen Whisnant still shot her 3 times. The police tried to say they only fired once, but I'm pretty sure she knows how many bullet wounds she has. Now they shot this woman who was obviously unarmed 3 times and lied about it for whatever reason, but they said it was because her brother was armed and pointing the gun at the police. They even said he shot at the police first. But not only is there no evidence for that, like no bullet holes or anything, everybody who was a witness in the house say that story is not true. The police said they found a gun, but the gun they found was outside. Nobody in the house was armed. And definitely not this sister Brittany Lynn, who wasn't even the suspect in the first place.
Man at the center of an officer-involved shooting that happened earlier this month in Gastonia, speaking publicly for the first time to us tonight. In an interview with Jarvis Lin, the man who was arrested after Gastonia Police say fired his gun at officers first, talking exclusively to WBTV. Tonight, Bria Bell is joining us live Talking about more about Lynn's side of the story, Bria, what did he have to say?
Ben, it was about 2 weeks ago when Gastonia police officers stopped at this house on South Gray Street for a noise disturbance call. Things quickly took a turn when Jarvis Lynn's sister was shot by a Gastonia police officer. It's a situation officials say escalated because Jarvis shot at police officers, but Jarvis says that's not true.
This was where the gun was located, but this right here was located right there.
Jarvis Lynn says this is the door a Gastonia police officer shot into when he hit his sister Brittany Lynn in the chest with bullets.
Only thing I hear is, oh, they done shot me.
According to SBI officials who are investigating the shooting, it was Officer Stephen Whisnant who pulled his trigger. Gastonia police say the officer only fired off his gun after Jarvis, who was a convicted felon for previous drug charges that date back to 2010, started shooting first. Jarvis says that couldn't have happened because officers only retrieved one gun from the scene, the gun that was found outside the home, and none of his family members had weapons. Officer Whisnant is on paid administrative leave while the investigation continues.
From my understanding, that's what they saying, that I waved a gun at him. He asked me numerous times to put down my weapon. I never heard none of that. I didn't even have no weapon in my hand for him to even say anything about it.
Jarvis admitted he first had contact with police while standing outside in the front yard, but went inside to grab his mother to speak with officers because he was a felon with outstanding warrants for assault.
I already knew I was going to jail, period. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no need to even have no words with them at all because I had warrants. I was going to jail regardless.
Jarvis says he has no problem facing the past charges that's pinned against him. But he and civil rights activist John Barnett just want to make sure Officer Whisnant has his day in court too, as Brittany Lynn is still trying to recover from her injuries.
We're still asking that officer be fired.
Gaston County D.A Locke Bell has called the shooting an accident and says that Brittany was not the intended target.
So not that it has anything to do with shooting an innocent woman who had her hands up and was just opening the door for the cops. And it seems like just opening the door for the cops can get you killed. Just ask the sister Bettie Jones, who was shot by Chicago police. The only thing she did was go to open the door for the cops. But they still had to bring up her brother's record to take away from them killing an innocent woman. They repeat over and over that he was a felon from a non-violent drug charge that he got in 2010. But drug take-back day wasn't available for brothers like Jarvis Lynn. And they love to talk about the crime statistics. But this brother is a felon and did more time for drugs than white men have gotten for molesting children or white women for hanging babies. They get probation for attempted murder. We get the war on drugs and mandatory sentences. And they try to use her brother's history to deflect from their violence and actually shooting an innocent woman. Then after all that, the D.A Locke Bell told the family that the shooting was an accident.
We've got some breaking new details now tonight after Gastonia Police shot a mother inside of her own home. Tonight, the Gaston County District Attorney says that shooting was an accident. It happened around 11:30 last night at a home on South Gray Street, and that is where we find NBC Charlotte's Brandon Goldner live at 5. And I think, Brandon, the question on everyone's mind is, how did this happen?
Well, Rachel, there are really three different perspectives that we're going to present to you about what happened. What we do know is police say they were called to a noise complaint at this home right here. And then at some point, an officer fired his gun, hitting a woman. And so these are the three perspectives we're getting from all the documents, video, and interviews we gathered. The woman shot by a Gastonia police officer screamed and cursed as these firefighters tended to her. Meanwhile, Daniel Ramsey streamed this all on Facebook Live.
They brought her over here and put her on the curb.
He says he was on his porch when officers pulled up to the home across from him. He says they then began chasing a man.
When they chased him around there, a few seconds later, I heard a gunfire, pow. And I sat on the porch, duck and tuck a little bit. And then, I guess about 5 minutes later, they brought a lady around here.
Gaston County District Attorney Locke Bell says that woman, who police identified as Brittany Lynn, was accidentally shot. Investigators say when officers arrived at the home, they encountered Jarvis Lynn, who was armed with a .45 caliber firearm. According to the arrest warrant, because Lynn is a convicted felon, he's not supposed to carry a gun. Officers say they ordered Lynn to drop it, but he refused. Investigators say an officer fired his service weapon, accidentally hitting his relative, Brittany Lynn, who was inside the home as this was all happening.
We are just beginning an investigation. The investigation will take a long time to get all the information that I've requested.
My name's Officer Unarmed, City Police.
But Brittany Lynn claims this investigation is misleading.
And Brittany Lynn wouldn't go on camera for us, but she did talk to us a little bit off camera, so we'll show you what we saw right here. She says that as she was walking in, she saw it through this back door right over here. She says that as officers were walking through to her property, she says she was going to let the officers in through that door. She says at some point as she was opening up, that's when officers fired the gunshot. She claims right as she opened the door, because she had children inside, she wanted to tell them that she wanted to make sure her kids were okay before letting officers inside. She said officers fired it just willy-nilly, if you will. So right now, it's ultimately going to be up to the district attorney and the SBI to determine what exactly happened at this home.
Now, following some breaking news in Gastonia, the family and supporters of a woman shot Sunday night by a police officer demand that officer be fired. WBTV's Bria Bell joins us live from Gastonia right now. Bria, tell us what the family is saying about this shooting.
Paul, well, the family says they're taking it one day at a time, and it's been hard because kids were inside the home during the shooting. The family also says the woman who was shot had her hands up and yelled, "Don't shoot." And her brother, who is accused of shooting at officers, didn't have a gun. And now the family is filing a lawsuit against Gastonia Police Department.
No justice?
No justice.
No peace.
No peace.
Hands up.
Hands up.
Don't shoot.
Don't shoot.
The chants you hear, led by civil rights activist John Barnett, comes just days after Brittany Lynn was shot by a Gastonia police officer. That officer in question is Stephen Whisnant, who has been with the department since September and was immediately placed on paid administrative leave.
Because in Bank of America, if you do something wrong, they fire you. Work at Bojangles, you do something wrong, they fire you.
Barnett is speaking on behalf of Brittany Lynn, who is still so emotional from Sunday's events. She is in the process of getting an attorney to file a lawsuit against the city for the shooting. This all started when police showed up to this house on South Gray Street for a noise disturbance call. Some neighbors say someone was playing loud music at the end of the block. But what led police to target this home is still in question. But officers say when they arrived, Jarvis Lynn, who is a convicted felon for previous drug charges, started shooting at them, and they fired back, hitting Brittany in the process. Jarvis was arrested and appeared in court today as he had outstanding warrants for assault. His family, including Brittany, was there for the whole thing. As Lynn has to face the justice system for charges pinned against him, the Lynn family is hoping Gastonia police officer Stephen Whisnant will be forced to do the same, as Gaston County District Attorney Locke Bell has already described the shooting as, quote, an accident, and said that Brittany was not the intended target. Barnett believes race played a role in why things unfolded the way they did.
So, Gastonia, you're making me sick. You need more diversity on your police force.
Now, this DA Locke Bell still can't say or decide whether he'll press charges on the cop or not, but he can say he knows it was an accident, meaning those bullets weren't meant for a black woman. They were meant for the black man, and they were meant to kill. It was an accident to shoot this woman, but the police can accidentally shoot innocent people and get away with it. And the police actually do have body camera footage of what happened, but they won't release it. It's just interesting the times they decide to release it and the times they don't. And as much caping as they were doing for the cops, they're still supposed to be investigating, and they gave this cop his paid vacation. This cop, Stephen Whisnant, couldn't even make it a year before he shot an innocent black person. And notice, more and more of these shootings are done by rookie cops. They deputize their people with the right mentality and give them a gun and a badge and the backing of the American government. And when they shoot somebody, they call it legal because they say so. And meanwhile, this brother Jarvis Lynn and a lot of brothers get caught up on drug charges and they become felons and they can't carry guns anymore. and they successfully unarm you because they say so, and they continue to arm themselves while they disarm us. And there is a report about how the KKK infiltrated the police. But the truth is, if anything, it's the other way around, and good cops may have infiltrated the KKK. The police was started as a racist organization, and the police are brought to you by the same people who created the KKK. That was the police original function, to keep niggas in line. And even though now we have the illusion of inclusion, all of these years later, it's still the same story. At some point, we're going to realize we already know what we have to do. We're just going to have to stop being scared to do it. We have to set aside our tribalisms in order to protect ourselves and to protect our children and to protect our family. If not, we're going to continue to be subject to their laws, their rules, and their punishment, and whatever they say goes.
She's shot. Yeah, she's shot. Wow.
Did you guys see anything?
I just seen the police come up and I seen somebody run and I heard a gunfire. I bet
Gunfire?
Yeah, that lady's shot right there.
She shot?
Yeah.
Where's this at? Where's this happening at?
Yeah, she's shot. Police one pulled up right there and he jumped out and hollered at somebody across the road. And they took off running. And then I heard they ran around the house and I heard a gunshot and then she was opening the door, I guess, and they shot her. They shot her. She shot her. Yeah, they're everywhere. They shot her. Yeah, they shot her.
But it is a shot at it. That's what I'm talking about. Motherfuckers talking about these two niggas. No, fuck that. Then I gotta go see out. Then I gotta go to the water.
I don't know if any exit wound or not. They cut her shirt off.
Yeah, y'all niggas buy that motherfucker. I told that motherfucker outside, close the door for him. As soon as I said that motherfucker fired the shot. You could have shot him, you could have did that before I put the shot out. But you gonna do a captain word. That motherfucker was
They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Police cars everywhere.
We do know that we can state that there apparently was a call for loud noise, I think, down the street. Is that correct? And I believe that your brother seen the police. And similar to Ray Caruth or O.J. Simpson, when Afro-American men have charges, they run. I used to run too back in the days. So he ran in the house. Now there was been some rumors that he was pointing a gun. He didn't drop the gun because for whatever reason, and that's why shots were fired. We're gonna let you all know that that's not true. He was actually sitting on the couch inside this home here. We have witnesses. I'm gonna get some statements. I'm gonna get them notarized. I'm gonna give them to my lawyer. The mother can attest to that. I think a nephew, and of course his sister. So we want to get rid of that rumor that he was pointing a gun at anyone. I'm appalled at the fact that they would take matters in their own hand. This young lady lifted both of her hands up. And as I attended the funeral of Michael Brown, I remember that they used to say hands up, don't shoot. Well, maybe she's seen some of the footage on CNN. So she lifted up her hands. She said, I have kids in this house and I'm coming out with my hands up. And yet a bullet still rang through the back door, several bullets. She was, luckily, she didn't die from these gunshot wounds. But I do know that it's a blessing that she's alive. Now, I asked her last night, or asked her mother, so how did the bullet go through the door and not through your chest? And she said it had to be the blood of Jesus. Amen? Yes. So we're asking, first request is that Officer Cutts, I think that's his name, that he do not be suspended with pay, that he be terminated. We're asking for termination of this particular officer. And why I say that, because there's a lot of rookie cops in Charlotte, in Gastonia, Atlanta, where I travel, Mississippi. A lot of rookie cops, and it seems as though they get a little nervous and trigger happy. I believe these shots rang out so fast because he actually had his...
So you're saying what was said in the arrest warrant that
he did not comply with officers' demands. Are you saying that's fabrication by officers? Are you saying, because that's what the arrest warrant says, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm actually going by the thoughts of this young lady, who, unlike some of the officers who were in the car and hiding behind the bush, she was inside the home. And my conversation with her over an hour yesterday, I believe this particular story. Because I do know that in this particular country, similar to Walter Scott, we can see that things can be taken the wrong way.
Don't touch my kid! Don't touch my kid! Calm down. Calm down. Calm down.
They was calm until they came and he told me somebody get calm down, honey. What you punching him for?
Because he just tried to squeeze my testicles.
I don't know. I just saw you punch him.
I need to go get it. How long? I've been back 25 years. Oh no. Come on. Now you sit down. Come on. Come on. Sit down, now.
Sit down.
Hell no.
Stand up.
Now you sit down. Sit down. Michaela, come on. You okay? Yo, I'm trying to get you. Go put your hands in my stomach.
Look at his right here.
Calm down. I need
Come here, little mama. Little mama. Stop.
Unlock the car door.
Stop hitting me. Go sit down.
You.
Sit down.
You. Police.
Stop.
Unlock the car.
You stop kicking.
What?
Stop kicking.
My fucking head.
Yep, he punched him.
He's only like 11. He's no older than 12.
Yo, I'm about to send this kid to the fucking hospital.
Well.
You're right, H.
Who's his lieutenant?
My fucking face. If I see him again, I'm gonna beat the shit out.
Oh, really?
All right, am I being arrested for anything I'm doing?
No, at this time you're not being arrested.
I didn't do it. Did I do anything wrong?
Sir, they're a private business, and as a private business, they can ask you to leave.
Did I do anything wrong, though? I'm asking you.
They ask you to leave.
So I'm asking you, did I do anything wrong?
You just need to leave.
I didn't do anything. I didn't come with them. I did not come with them. I came by myself.
Okay. Then you can leave by yourself.
I'm actually, did I do anything wrong? And is I'm arrested for anything I'm doing wrong?
You're not under arrest, no.
So, are you refusing my service?
Yes.
Why are you refusing my service? Because I'm black?
Okay,
Answer this question. Because I'm black?
You're the only one that's bringing race into it.
I sat here first.
Okay.
There's no problem for me sitting right here.
And we're going to refuse you service, so you need to leave.
You cannot refuse somebody's service.
Okay.
Are you on duty? I need to speak to active supervisor for the night. Okay. I am a taxpayer, Saginaw Township resident.
Okay.
I pay my taxes.
Okay.
I was here, sitting here first.
Okay.
Whatever happened, happened. I was not around what happened.
All right.
Sir, I am the on-duty supervisor.
I understand that, but what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?
Let me finish. I came over here for a totally separate call. He is security for IHOP. He has asked you to leave. If you refuse to leave, you will be arrested for trespassing.
How am I being arrested? What did I do wrong?
Right now, you're refusing to leave. That's what you're doing wrong. It's called trespassing.
That's called racist.
No, sir, it's not called racist.
That is called racist.
A private business has come over
I didn't do anything wrong. What did I do wrong? Can you show me what I did wrong?
The manager came over and said you were being disorderly. You were.
Did no manager came over?
Sir, you keep interrupting me.
Sergeant.
Sir.
Ma'am.
The manager came over and asked
No, she did not.
The manager came over and told us.
Can you please?
You were being disorderly.
Can you give me the manager?
No.
We're past that.
We're past that. It's time to leave.
What did I do wrong?
Sir, right now, what you're doing wrong is you're refusing to leave.
So I'm being arrested?
No, you're not being arrested. If you choose to get up and walk out the door, and we are giving you every opportunity.
So that is a racist judgment towards me because I am black.
No, sir.
I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong in here.
You're the one bringing race into this.
Because I am.
So I've now asked you at least twice to leave. So I'm going to tell you one more time, you need to leave or you can be arrested.
Well, a Bay Area woman says a popular supermarket chain accused her family of shoplifting because they're African American. Night Beat's Maria Medina is in Mountain View with what happened after 911 was called.
On her free time, Erica Martin says she gives care packages to the homeless.
It makes me feel good.
Including one man who frequents the Safeway off Shoreline Boulevard in Mountain View.
That day, I just decided to go give him some dog food for his dog.
That day was a Sunday evening earlier this month, a day she'll now never forget.
The police just blocks me in. I'm like, what is going on?
Erica says she found herself suddenly defending herself to several officers who told her Safeway employees accused her of theft.
And then she was like, well, we were called here because you fit the description of someone taking items out of Safeway and bringing it back to your car. I'm like,
Erica says Safeway workers thought she was conspiring with an African-American man and that a group of kids were also shoplifting and bringing items to her car. She says her little boy had gone to the deli to see if they were giving away cookie samples, as he's done many times before, and was now sitting in their car frightened and emotional.
And he was like crying because he thought they were there to arrest him.
The thing is, Erica never stepped foot inside Safeway. In fact, she says she never got out of her car. Erica says she wasn't wearing the shirt reported to police. She was wearing this religious shirt instead. And she claims she was listening to gospel music and talking to her sisters, who'd also dropped off items to a homeless man. Her sister recorded this video of the incident.
Accusing her of stealing. And she was in her car the whole time.
Police say Erica and her family were helpful and calm and realized Safeway workers got it all wrong.
Racism still exists.
But the damage, she says, was already done.
I blame the Safeway employees, and for them to do something like that to me is just hurtful and shameful.
Will you ever go back to that Safeway?
I am not going back to that Safeway, ever.
Erica says a store manager apologized for what happened and that she'd be getting a call from corporate. She's still waiting on that call. A spokesperson for Safeway did return our request and said workers called 911 because a man who'd stolen here before had returned, but they're still investigating as to why police questioned Erica and her family that day.
The incident report employees filed with the police allege a well-choreographed heist with multiple thieves, distractions, and signals. It's like Ocean Spray 11. Nope, instead of justice, they're getting a hefty bucket of shame. Of course, since there's no single employee on camera having called the police, we don't get a barbecue Becky or a permit Patty this run. But if there's an entire company that embodies the essence of disgruntled pearl-clutching white woman, it's Safeway. By the way, the initial police call, which singled out a black man in his 30s as a shoplifting suspect, was found by police to have not stolen anything either. I kind of feel like maybe the Safeway employees are possibly snagging things and just blaming it on other people. A representative of Safeway told the Mountain View Voice that they have apologized and been in contact with a customer involved in the incident. That customer must be the misidentified black man, since Erica says she's still waiting for that phone call. Safeway hasn't mentioned the incident on Twitter, but people are certainly tweeting at them. Author Kurt Eichenwald said Erica is only guilty of being charitable while black. And @Flips wrote, soon it'll be BWB, black while black. WTF, Safeway.
And one of the great things about being the chief of police of Biscayne Park is that we are truly a family here. A family who works together and is joined by one common cause, which is the protection of life and property for the residents of the village of Biscayne Park. For May, we have Detective Raul Fernandez. And before I let Raul sit down, I want to give you something that I'm also very proud of. This year, as we stand, we have a 100% clearance rate on burglary cases in the village of Biscayne Park. This is the first time that I've ever known that to happen in any department that I've ever been in. He's a great part of the reason.
Shocking story from Biscayne Park, where the former police chief and 2 officers have been indicted now on criminal charges.
According to prosecutors, the 3 former officers tried to make their job performance look good by cooking the books. Local 10's Leanne Morejón is live to explain this one. Leanne.
And all of this at allegedly the expense of a 16-year-old boy. The three officers that are being named in this criminal indictment include the former police chief. Let's take you into these details that have been released today by the U.S. Department of Justice. We understand that the indictment names three former Biscayne Park police officers, including Chief Raimundo Atesiano and former officers Charlie Deyub and Raul Fernandez. We're told that they played some role in conspiring to falsely arrest a 16-year-old for 4 unsolved burglaries. We're told that they did this because they wanted to maintain their arrest record up to 100%, making sure that they were able to show that they were doing a good job of solving crimes in their city. We know that they allegedly conspired against this teenager, essentially trying to frame him and having them construct some sort of false narrative. Now, this is an excerpt from the release today. It says, quote, "The indictment alleges that Atesiano, as the Biscayne Park police chief, caused and encouraged officers to knowingly arrest the minor without a legitimate basis in order to maintain a fictitious 100% clearance rate of reported burglaries." It goes on to say that they did have prior knowledge. They knew that there was no evidence and no lawful basis to arrest and charge this minor with those crimes. We know that Atesiano did have a hearing in federal court today. He is being held on $50,000 bond reportedly. The other 2 officers will have hearings later this month.
Have I committed a crime? What's that? Have I committed a crime? No, I didn't say you did. All right, then. You're still required to identify yourself. Am I free to go? Not right now, no. Am I being detained? You're not detained. So am I free to go? No. Am I being detained? If I'm not being detained, then I'm free to go. You're not free to go until you identify yourself.
Glassberg says that's the first thing the deputy did that was illegal. It escalates minutes later after a second deputy mentions there have been catalytic converter thefts in the area.
So what crime did I commit? You're failing to identify yourself. No, I'm not. So who are you? It doesn't matter who I am. Okay. Put your hands on your back. Put your hands on your back. Relax. Really? Yeah. Yeah. Really? Yeah. You guys are detaining me for what? Yeah. Look up. Now, you're under arrest and you're resisting arrest.
An African-American man in Alexandria has just sued a white Stafford County Sheriff's deputy, accusing him of dragging him to jail simply for driving while black. Only he wasn't even driving, and he hadn't been accused of a crime. The traffic stop was caught on camera, and our Bruce LaShan has that video.
George Wingate was driving here on Route 1 in Stafford County last year when his check engine light came on. He pulled off the road into a parking space here. He lifted up the hood to see if he could figure out what was going on. Then he got back in the car and opened up the owner's manual. At that point, Stafford County Sheriff's Deputy S.A. Fulford pulled in behind him.
Have I committed a crime? What's that? Have I committed a crime? No, I didn't say you did. All right, then. You're still required to identify yourself. Am I free to go? Not right now, no.
The 27-year-old Uber and Lyft driver and father of 2 said he had just had a conversation with a family member about his constitutional rights if stopped by the police.
You are committing a crime now because you're required to give us your ID.
You're simply not required to give somebody your name.
Wingate's lawyer, Victor Glassberg, says the courts have held repeatedly that you only have to give your name and ID if you are suspected of a crime. The lawsuit alleges false arrest and malicious prosecution.
It is completely gratuitous, inappropriate, and unconstitutional demand for somebody to provide this information.
And this officer was not trying to help me at all. He was, more so checking to see if I was, I don't know, stealing cars or car parts.
The deputy insisted he was trying to help.
I drive by and I see somebody with a hood up. So guess what I'm going to do as a police officer? I'm going to pull over and I'm going to try and help that person.
Deputies eventually arrested Wingate, and as they put him in cuffs, he ran.
Now, you're under arrest and you're resisting arrest.
At this point, the Stafford County Sheriff's Office says it is not talking because of the pending lawsuit. In Stafford County, Bruce LaShan, WUSA 9.
Wingate spent a night in jail and his car was towed. When he got out, he says he couldn't afford the impound and storage fees and his car ended up being repossessed. He works as an Uber and Lyft driver, so it was a huge problem. Nonetheless, he says he would do it all again to stand up for his rights.
All right, and we back on the forecast. So in New Jersey, a brother named Rashaun Washington, who was unarmed, was shot and killed by Vineland Police. So let's see what led to the shooting of this unarmed black man.
We need to get that boulevard clear. I need someone to get that boulevard clear. Get the pedestrians and bystanders out of the way.
What's the problem, man? Come on, talk to me. Forget about everyone else. What's going on? What's going on, my man? Get out there! Get on the other side of the boulevard, go! He said he's got a bomb! Get back! Get back! Stop walking! Stop walking! Show your hands! Show your hands! Stay back! Go! Get on the other side of the boulevard! Stay back! Don't make me shoot you! Stay back! Give me a canister. Stay back! Don't do it! God damn it! Pull back! Pull back! Pull back! Pull back! Get him out! No! Stop! No! Really get him out! We got more units. We need more units. Get him out! 248, shots fired, shots fired. Have EMS move in immediately. Shots fired, shots fired. Copy, more units, shots fired, EMS is rolling in.
For him to get shot like this, killed like this, is unexplainable.
Now at 10, a neighborhood in shock after police shoot and kill a man. What neighbors saw just moments before officers opened fire. Good evening, I'm Greg Argos. Natasha Brown is off tonight. The standoff between the man and police in South Jersey lasted a few minutes, and the entire ordeal was posted live on Facebook as it unfolded. Eyewitness News reporter Alicia Nieves is live at the scene in Vineland with the latest. Good evening, Alicia.
Good evening, Greg. We have that cell phone video that was streamed on social media, but are not showing it in its entirety because it is extremely graphic. I mean, it not only shows the moment that a man was shot by police officers, but it shows the man being bit by a canine dog after and then being cuffed as he bled out. People in this community who witnessed this ordeal are upset and now questioning local police, asking why officers didn't use a taser or mace or some other means to subdue this man safely. A fatal shooting involving police in Vineland, New Jersey was captured on cell phone video. We blurred the actual shooting. Oh my God! But you can still hear the moment a Vineland police officer shot an unidentified man 3 times, killing him.
And I live right there, not even 3 feet away.
Jose Pagan watched the shooting unfold on West Wood Street just next door to his home. He says around 11 this morning, a man who did not live at the home next door began pacing back and forth outside it. Police were trying to calm the man down and appeared patient at first.
They telling him to calm down, turn himself in, or whatever. And he said, no, he refused. He said, no, I'm not leaving here. Y'all gonna have to kill me.
Pagan did not expect an officer to do just that minutes later.
They should have not killed him because he didn't have no weapon, no shirt. He's showing the cops all he got is a bottle of water.
What is most concerning to Pagan and other neighbors, including the woman who shot this video, oh my God, was what the officer said as he pulled the trigger.
And the cop yelled, bomb, a bomb, a bomb, and he shot him 3 times. Pam, 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 pam. Where the bomb comes from? Ain't no bomb. You think if there would be a bomb, you don't think this whole block would have been evacuated?
And per Attorney General guidelines, the local prosecutor's office is investigating this officer-involved shooting. Now, that office did confirm that the man shot here was killed and that the incident happened right around 11:22 this morning. But that office is not saying anything about whether a bomb was found on scene or if one was suspected at all during this incident.
So this brother Rashaun Washington was going through some mental issues and suffering depression when somebody called the police. When they showed up, there was a 28-minute standoff. Now, in the video, pay attention to the guns that the police have. They had some military-issued police weapons, and they were out there just for a call about a suspicious person. Now, according to the police, Rashaun was asking for the police to kill him, which is not the police job. They aren't supposed to grant death wishes. They're supposed to talk you out of trying to commit suicide. Now, this man didn't have on a shirt, and you can clearly see he was unarmed. Even though the police said they found some garden shears wrapped up in his shirt. But all the witnesses said he only had a water bottle, and he showed the cops he had a water bottle. And then out of nowhere, a cop yells bomb, and they started to open fire. And this brother Rashaun Washington got shot 3 times. They said they thought he had a bomb wrapped up in his shirt. But when's the last time you seen a black man with a bomb? The only times you really hear about black people and bombs is when we're being bombed. But then after they shot him 3 times and he dropped to the ground, they sent a dog to attack him and then pepper sprayed him. The police said they released the dogs to immobilize him after they shot him 3 times. And this goes back to that myth about how they think we're extraordinary and regular bullets can't kill us. It's that whole Negro cocaine fiend thing they used to talk about. And it's because they realize our power and who we are. It's because they fear us. And they believe that bullets can't drop us. And after hundreds of years of our blood being shed, you would think that they would know by now that it's not true. They're experts at murdering us, but they still believe this myth. And with Rashaun Washington, they went the opposite of how they were trained to use force. And as he was laying on the ground bleeding out from all of his wounds, they then handcuffed him and left him to die. Now this cop gets his paid vacation while his family and people out there protesting, demanding answers. But we just have to wait for the police to investigate themselves while we beg for justice.
Family members of a man shot to death by a Vineland police officer demand officials do a thorough investigation of the incident, which was captured on cell phone video. Eyewitness News reporter Alicia Nieves is live in Bridgeton at the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office. Alicia, what's the latest?
Well, just the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office just announced a little while ago that the officer who pulled the trigger, shot and killed a black man in Vineland, that officer has been put on paid administrative leave while this office investigates whether the shooting was justified or not. The Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office is investigating this deadly shooting captured on cell phone video. It shows a Vineland police officer pulling the trigger, shooting a black man 3 times, killing him. Witnesses on West Wood Street on Saturday say the man was clearly unarmed. Tonight, the family of Rashaun Washington, the man shot and killed by police, are begging prosecutors to do a thorough investigation.
Please do not push this case to the side and be as though it was an officer, let it go. We need justification for Rashaun.
The family says this video shows that officers could have used less deadly force to subdue Washington, who was pacing outside of a home.
Like, y'all could have shot him in his leg and take him down and handcuff anything. Y'all do not have to do what y'all did.
Rashaun Washington's family acknowledges that he did have an outstanding warrant in Camden County, but they are asking the prosecutor's office and the public to not use that to justify this shooting.
I don't want to let them try to justify this by defamating his character, because my brother was a very good person. Everybody make mistakes.
There has been at least one march and protest at the Vineland Police Department. The family is planning another one this Thursday.
Anybody that can come out and support us, please come out. We need justice for my brother, please. It's not right what these police is doing to us. It's not right.
And according to court documents, Rashaun Washington was wanted on non-violent offenses. Also, according to court documents, Vineland Police are being sued civilly currently by the family of another man who was shot and killed by a Vineland police officer back in 2016. The family of Rashaun Washington say this is even more proof and evidence of why this prosecutor's office has to have a thorough and transparent investigation.
Now, even though they're supposed to be investigating and they don't want to release any information, they don't want to be clear about what happened because it may affect the investigation, They were real quick to put out information about this brother Rashaun Washington. They tried to find out anything they could about this brother past. And they brought up a non-violent history. And even though they're still investigating, they're caping for this cop. They won't even release the cop who shot him name. The prosecutors are already saying they attempted to de-escalate the situation. They thought he had a bomb, so it was completely justified. But eventually, in this case, the cops were forced to release the body camera footage.
The officer involved in the shooting has been placed on administrative leave.
David Spunts live in Vineland tonight with a look at that body cam video. David?
Jessica, that video is very tough to watch. It is graphic, a warning to our viewers, but there was just so much grief and pain among the family and friends of Rashaun Washington. In fact, tonight, about 100 people came out to march in his honor, calling for some sort of accountability at the police department behind me. This newly released body camera video is graphic and shows the final moments of Rashaun Washington's life.
Stay back! Don't do it!
The 37-year-old died Saturday after being shot by a Vineland police officer. Thursday evening, family and friends stood just feet from where Washington was shot at the corner of Wood and Northwest Boulevard. The mission tonight, justice, and to find out why Washington was shot. The crowd marched to police headquarters.
All he did was joke around and have fun. Most of all, he just loved his kids. He was a good guy. He was a very good guy, and I'm gonna miss him. We want justice.
The body camera footage shows one of their own shooting Washington. In addition to bullets, officers released a canine that bit Washington several times. Authorities also sprayed mace. The 37-year-old died soon after.
They didn't have to kill my son, and after they shot him like that, they turned around and sprayed all that mace on my son. Why the hell they didn't spray that mace before they killed him?
The video shows a 27-minute lapse from when the first officer arrives on scene to when the trigger was pulled. Authorities say they found a pair of garden shears on Washington. Authorities also say the man indicated he had a bomb. Washington's family members tell Eyewitness News he had an outstanding warrant in Camden County where he lived.
We don't only get upset when it's an officer-involved shooting, but we get upset when it's crime against one another.
Police here in Vineland are not talking. The investigation right now being run by the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office. That's the agency that released that video that you just saw. We do, though, know, we don't know the name of the officer, but we know that officer that shot and ultimately killed Mr. Washington placed on administrative leave, which is standard procedure.
Now, the police can talk about this brother's nonviolent warrants that he may have, but they normalize having a dog attack a man after they shot him and then pepper sprayed him. But it's all okay because they say so. And it's not just the cops that have been deputized. You have cases like what happened to the brother Frederick Taft. This brother was at a family reunion and was shot dead by a random white man in the bathroom. And after he killed this brother, he just walked right out of there and got away with it. Now the cops claim they don't know who it was or what motivation they had, even though you had witnesses say they saw white men sitting on a bench yelling racial slurs at black people. But when it comes to situations like this, all of a sudden their high IQ goes right out the window. And then all of a sudden they don't know anything. And then they turn around and call us violent. But if we were as violent as they say we were, we would never be in this situation in the first place, let alone for hundreds of years. They respond with more urgency than we do to maintain their position. Look at South Africa. The white people are ready to take up arms just because the government said they're going to take back the lands that's rightfully theirs in the first place. And those white people there are prepared to go to war. We've been subject to their rules and their laws for hundreds of years, and we still don't respond with as much urgency as we need to. We're still stuck on our tribal differences and pointing the finger at each other instead of at the root of all of these issues. But at the end of the day, if we don't learn how to protect ourselves, how to protect our elderly, how to protect our children, then the cycle is going to continue.
For 57-year-old Frederick Taft.
Fred did not deserve it. He still had a lot of life in him left.
It was nothing but a racist hate crime.
And this needs to stop. You go to the bathroom during midday and someone shoots you for no reason.
Long Beach police say Taft was shot and killed in the park bathroom on Saturday afternoon. Deborah Posey was at the park with Taft and his family. She was leaving the bathroom as he was heading in. It would be their last conversation.
And he turns into the men's restroom. When he turned that corner, it wasn't even 10 seconds, I heard the shots.
Posey says the man was white and wearing a big hat that covered his face. He ran off before they could get a good look at him. According to the family, this park bench, a possible clue. It's been painted over since Saturday, but witnesses say 3 white men inscribed a racial slur against black people that morning.
He didn't deserve this at all, just, it's cold-blooded murder.
Maybe seconds after she went into the restroom, she heard shots. She ran out the restroom and she said, Frederick, oh my gosh, Frederick was in there. What did you do to Frederick?
It's been 3 days since the murder of Corey Taft's father, Fred. The 57-year-old truck driver was shot to death in a public restroom Saturday during a family reunion at Pan American Park in Long Beach. The park is surrounded by churches, schools, and homes. Long Beach police have no motive and no suspect.
My dad didn't have any enemies. He was a people's person, very kind-hearted man, and he got along with everybody. Everybody loved him. He didn't have any enemies at all.
Fred Taft's only child wears a T-shirt with a photo of her and her dad. Corey Taft is scared because the gunman is on the loose. She says she's also worried that her father may have been targeted because of his race. After the killing, a coach shared with the family that his softball players have been harassed at this park. According to police, the gunman is a white man in his 50s, and detectives have not uncovered any evidence at this point to indicate a hate crime.
None of my family never seen this coming. We just want closure. My dad didn't deserve this.
A family friend who was in the women's restroom at the same time says she heard at least 3 shots. She ran out and says she saw the gunman walking away, but she never got a look at his face. She did see that he had a gun by his side and was wearing a big camouflage hat.
Controversial land reforms in South Africa are raising tensions as the nation's white minority arms themselves to defend their farms against government seizures. One America's Christian Rhodes has a story.
White South Africans are arming themselves to defend their properties in the wake of the land reform advanced by the black majority government of African National Congress, or ANC. This comes amidst a tidal wave of farm murders aimed against white landowners in the Rainbow Nation, and Afrikaners claim the government's inaction on violent crime and the planned expropriations fall in line with the ANC's far-left policies of white genocide.
When you leave home, you can feel the animosity. It's like if you walk down a street, you can feel it's like your skin color depicts who you are, not your soul.
This comes as the ANC is seeking to seize Afrikaner properties in both rural and urban areas. Most recently, ANC leaders, including South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, reaffirmed their commitments to the land and property expropriations at a so-called land summit in Boksburg, Gauteng. The upcoming reform is simple. If you are white in South Africa and you own land, a farm or a city home, the government will take it away with no compensation for the sake of greater social justice.
Without the redistribution of land, we will not be able to build a united South Africa. Without the recognition of the property rights of all our people, we will not overcome inequality.
Meantime, South Africa's streets are mired in violent clashes between the police and the country's black majority, who demand the land expropriation reform advance faster. Left-wing radicals claim European settlers stole their land hundreds of years ago, despite back in the 17th century South Africa was a sparsely populated desert, whilst the Rainbow Nation's black majority formed as a result of mass migration from tropical Africa in the late 19th century.
There are 3 main reasons or 3 main methods in which white people acquired land in South Africa. The first was that there were in fact empty pieces of land in South Africa, and this is not supposed to be a controversial fact. The second was negotiations and treaties, and this is also not supposed to be a controversial fact. And the third way, which is the most controversial, is the way the acquiring land by way of conquest. And that is something that has happened. It was also common practice among black tribes in South Africa at the time.
The act is sparking outrage from the community.
Eyewitness News reporter Anita Owens in Queen Village right now where this disturbing discovery was made. Anita?
Well, Yuki and Jess, a neighbor just told me that he actually saw young children playing with that doll in the past several days. Many say that it is so unsettling and so uncomfortable that this happened not only at a playground, but also at the original burial grounds for an historic African-American church.
People threw a doll up on a wire to depict a lynching.
And on Thursday afternoon, Philadelphia firefighters had to remove that disturbing discovery from a Queen Village playground. A black baby doll hanged by a makeshift noose from a telephone wire.
The symbol itself, depicting a lynching, is just a horrible, heinous act that sends chill and fear through the African-American community.
Rue Lando, executive director of the city's Commission on Human Relations, says she's noticed a rise in incidents like this.
There's been an uptick since the November 2016 election, and we have just seen each week more acts of hate and bias throughout our city.
Police Commissioner Richard Ross came to the playground at 4th and Queen Streets, vowing to channel resources into finding the culprit.
It's just very sad in 2018 that we're still dealing with behavior like this and mindsets like this.
Lando adds the answer is unity.
Just gotta keep coming together and keep being strong.
Now, the mayor's office released a statement that reads in part, quote, "The city will do everything in its power to bring the people responsible to justice for this disgusting act." Investigators hope that nearby surveillance cameras will lead them to the culprit. Meantime, the FOP is offering a $5,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest and a conviction.
A shocking display of racism at a local hotel is creating a stir on social media and could soon spark legal action. I'm Brad Stevens.
And I'm Ellen McNamara. We want to warn you, though, some people may find the image offensive. Betsy Webster is live at the Adams Mark Hotel right now near Arrowhead with the story you will see only on KCTV5. Betsy.
Well, Ellen, a Kansas City, Missouri lawyer sent us some information today about this photo I'm about to show you. She says this is something that a white supervisor placed in an employee common area in this Adams Mark Hotel. Now, the image is of a doll dressed to look like an African-American slave hanging from a noose fashioned from a plastic shopping bag. The lawyer says she got the photo directly from the phone of the young man who took it last week while working at the hotel. She wouldn't say if the man still works there, if he notified that supervisor's manager, and if so, how the management responded. She told me she plans to release more information on the case on Wednesday, when she also plans to announce details about a rally in support of this man and against this behavior. She says this happened on the 21st, last Tuesday, and 2 or 3 days later, the man came to her for legal advice.
I was deeply disappointed and outraged that in 2015, in a city that I love, that there could be such blatant intolerance and racism that was present in a workplace.
Now, we did reach out to Adams Mark Hotel, both this hotel and the corporate office, when we got this news just a few hours ago. We left several voicemails. We have not yet heard back at this hour.
Latest racial incident involving a Wake County school has the principal pursuing criminal charges.
CBS North Carolina obtains this photo showing the doll hanging from its neck alongside the sign, "Make Wakefield Trip Again, #SmartLunch." CBS North Carolina's Robert Richardson is live outside the school. And Robert, what can you tell us about this incident?
Well, Sharon, I talked with several students when school dismissed for the day, and all of them were furious about what happened. They want the culprits caught and punished. If you look right over there, you can see the front entrance to the school. And this morning, when students arrived, hanging on the front wall was a dark stuffed animal. Students interpreted it as a representation of first-year principal Malik Bazell. The banner next to it referred to former principal Trip Creighton and the extended Smart Lunch period, which Bazell eliminated in October. But several teens told me this wasn't just an attack on Bazell. It was a threat against all African Americans here.
I didn't even know how to feel. I was livid. Like, it just, someone really would do that. Like, you have that much hatred in your heart to do that, a physical representation of racism.
Principal Bazell sent out a letter about what he called an offensive act and asked parents to talk to their children about living and working together. During the last period of the day, school administrators met with a few students from each class in a forum to discuss what happened. And coming up at 6, you'll hear from some of the students who attended the forum about what they want to see happen next.
Smoke here, you're gonna have me kicked out? That's what you said?
They will have you evicted for smoking on the property.
They will?
You're recording it, and I'm gonna let Jessica and everybody else know in the office.
Okay, are you racist? Because I think you are. You just came out here harassing me for no reason.
For smoking on the property?
You just smoking cigarettes? Oh, okay. You can't smoke cigarettes out here. Cigarettes. Oh, okay. Standing out in the parking garage, smoking a cigarette, which I dumped down there. Just got home.
Video just in case. Right, see? Trying to get over. See one guy trying to get over? This shit's getting down here. See what I mean? That's what you gotta do. Get license plate and truck. Oh my God. Break it up. Oh man. We have to stop because if we go, people might get us. Get the license plate, both cars?
No, I can't see the license plate.
You see the truck car? You see the truck and the...
No,
I mean, you see the truck's license plate?
only like the second half of it.
Shit,
Oh.
see that? Oh shit, you see that? See, you got the license plate of the truck. See, that's why you did it?
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RIP to the brother Rashaun Washington, to the brother Frederick Taft. Luckily, the sister Brittany Lynn is alive to tell her story. But at some point, enough has got to be enough. It's not just our blood being shed, it's us living in their system. They control this society. We have a lot of reasons to do what we have to do, not just when our blood is shed. And the solutions are simple. Our ancestors already gave us the blueprint. Our ancestors built an economy. Because of segregation, they were forced to support each other and become millionaires. White people didn't accept their money, so they just gave it to each other. Today, we have an illusion of a choice, but we really don't have a choice. And today, we could easily nominate the most successful black businessmen or women and elect a committee strictly in charge of funding and helping grow black businesses. To help the black businesses that already exist get into our neighborhoods so we can support them. And to help young entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground. And we all can contribute to it, whether you're rich or poor, whether you can send $1,000 or $1. And we already give so much money away. Just make sure they stay transparent and they do what they say they're going to do. And when you build an economy, you can build the other programs that you need. But the one thing our ancestors didn't do was learn how to protect themselves. And whatever we build, we have to protect it. Because they will come. But as always, man, we have got to start standing for something. Or we're going to keep falling for anything.